Now, Friday Night Football, presented by Monteith's Best One Tire and Auto Care.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Friday Night Football. I'm Alex Wilcox. It was another big night of high school highlights tonight.
That's right. Last week of the regular season up in Michigan and the first week of sectionals in Indiana, including a repeat of the NLC championship game from last week.
That's right. We start at Andrews Field for 4A sectionals. The #1 team in the state, Northwood, hosting Plymouth after they crushed the Rockies last week. Start in the second half, Panthers already up 20-7. Bronson Yoder, Mr. Do-It-All for the Panthers, bowls over a couple defenders to set Northwood up first and goal inside the 5. The Plymouth defense, though, showed its teeth a little from there. Yoder is stood up by a host of Rockies and dropped for a loss. But you can't keep that man down for long. A few plays later, Yoder barrels into the end zone for the touchdown. Northwood extends their lead 26-7. Now midway through the third, this time it's Nate Newcomer calling his own number. The sophomore quarterback making big plays, making defenders miss. He's in for 6. A 48-yard scoring run makes it 33-7 Panthers. Northwood dominates Plymouth again. 40-7 is your final. So Northwood will take their perfect season on the road next week in the sectional semis against East Noble, who beat DeKalb 33-32.
Also in that sectional, Northridge beat Wawasee 33-12, and Angola knocked off Culver Academy's 27-7. So the Raiders will travel to Angola next week. How about the NIC North champion Mishawaka Cavemen taking on Hobart? Brickies face a 4th down and 9, and Riley Johnston rifles this pass, but it's intercepted right into the paws of Grant Jablonski, and he takes it all the way to the house. Pick 6 for Jablonski gives Mishawaka the 7-0 lead. And how about some Cavemen offense? Sam Shively fakes the pitch and finds good old Mr. Reliable Chris Harness down the field. Harness goes 39 yards for the score. Mishawaka up 14-0. The Huskies would score, but the Cavemen kept at it. Shively fakes the handoff and shakes off some tacklers and finds the end zone. Mishawaka leads 21-7. The Cavemen go on the win over Hobart 35-7.
Washington getting ready to take on New Prairie at School Fields. We pick things up in the second quarter. New Prairie with the 21-7 lead. Quarterback Chase Ketterer with the cannon launches this one past midfield. He finds Jacob Tuttle. We're going to skip ahead here. We've got a muffed punt in the end zone. Washington rolling around trying to find some. Oh, don't do that, son. That's not a good play at all. Air Agnew picks it up in the end zone, or that was Jackson Hakes, excuse me, for the touchdown, putting an exclamation point on the big halftime lead. New Prairie dominates over Washington, 56-7.
Still in South Bend, Clay visiting Riley. Rain coming down harder now. Riley with the 33-0 lead in the second quarter. Jamin Gordon with the kickoff return. He breaks loose, sneaks his way up the left sideline for great field position, but Clay unable to capitalize on the great field position. Cheerleaders fired up over that one later in the second quarter. Clay looking for more points before the half, but their quarterback gets picked off by Riley's Dominic Przylewski just shy of the end zone. South Bend Riley wins over South Bend Clay 40-6. The final game in that sectional, St. Joe dominated Kankakee Valley 38-21. They will host New Prairie in the sectional semis next week.
And after dismantling Hobart, Mishawaka will take on Riley at Steele Stadium in the other sectional semifinal. Well, lousy weather may have dampened down attendance at Rice Field, but we had a good one between Fort Wayne Northside and Elkhart Central. However, this play, not a good one. Elkhart Central's Ricky Roca has the ball knocked out of his hands. For the fumble, Fort Wayne takes over but fails to score. On the next Blazer drive, Isaiah Chandler just waits for the hole to open up and pushes his way past the goal line for the touchdown, and the Blazers jump out to the 7-0 lead. If the fans thought that was great, just watch Chandler do it again. Heaves this one deep down the field and finds Kyron Pearson in stride as he heads to pay dirt like Terry rushes to the buffet. Sorry about that one, Terry. It's now 14-0 in the end. Elkhart Central wins big 46-22. Well, we're just halfway through this week's edition of Friday Night Football.
We have a couple more sectional games for you left. Plus, we have highlights from the last day of the regular season in Michigan. Stay tuned.
Now, back to Friday Night Football.
And welcome back into this week's edition of Friday Night Football.
First Friday of sectionals in Indiana and the last day of the regular season in Michigan. But let's stick in Indiana for our next game. 3A sectionals. NIC South co-champs Marion going for their fourth straight sectional crown, starting postseason play at Fairfield. Scoreless in the first, Joe Newcomer gets the handoff, but he coughs it up. Michael Schaefer dives on it, and Marion takes over deep in Falcon territory. They would take advantage of the turnover. Malkin Anderson gets behind his blockers and cruises into the end zone to put the Knights up on the board, 7-0 in the first. And on the next Fairfield possession, the turnover bug strikes again. This time, Christian Nagunia picks off Corey Lance. Marion once again inside the Falcons' red zone. They waste no time turning that into points. This time, it's Michael Gibson, the senior, hitting the hole all the way to the pay dirt. The Knights jump out to the 14-0 lead, and they go on the win 42-7.
Jimtown hosting Knox in 3A. We pick up the game at the start of the second half with the Jimmies sitting on a 7-6 lead. But that didn't last long as Ethan Gaval bangs into one Redskin after another until there are no more Knox defenders to bump into. That's a Jimmy touchdown, and then that makes it 14-6. Knox came right back at Jimtown, though, with their workhorse, Dawson Patrick. You can tell he's got the dirtiest uniform on the field. Touchdown Redskins. Knox ties the game up with a 2-point conversion. Later in the quarter, Zach Rose throws a quick pass to Jared Prater, and he's off to the races. He outruns everybody. You got to check out this kid's 40 time. Huge pitch and catch for the Redskins, and that would end up being your game winner. Knox pulls off the big win on the road over Jimtown, 21-14.
So now Knox will head to Marion to take on the Knights in the sectional semis.
In 2A, Bremen bounces back with the 35-27 win over Woodland. They'll travel to Central Noble next week. And in 1A, Triton knocks off Culver Community. They're at Winnemac next week for the sectional semis. On to our spotlight game of the week. It's the 100-year rivalry between Coloma and Watervliet. Second drive of the game for the Panthers, and it's sophomore quarterback Don Smith, the third on the option. He takes it himself and sets Watervliet up inside the 5. On the very next play, Smith punches it in, and the Panthers take the lead after a successful 2-point conversion. Watervliet leads 8-0. Pretty good start for the Panthers as they look for their first win in conference play. But the Comets respond. Coloma pitches it to senior running back Caleb Ellis, who's coming right at you. Touchdown Comets. They would go for 2 and tie the game up at 8. Coloma rolls in this one 52-36.
Looking like it's camo night at Brandywine. They are gearing up to take on Buchanan, jumping right to the first quarter. Brandywine's Jordan Abrams gets the snap. Little spin move there, and he's off to the races. He makes it into the end zone for the first points of the game. 2-point conversion gives Brandywine the 8-0 lead. Later in the first, this time it's Robert Gordon getting the handoff for Brandywine. He sweeps up the right side, leaving defenders in his dust, practically walks into the end zone there. Brandywine extends their lead 14-0. They go on to win this one 62-12.
Wind and rain didn't stop the St. Joe student section from coming out in full force before the Bears took on Portage Northern. Late in the second half, Huskies up 8-0, but the Bears are driving, and the snap goes over the quarterback's head. Thankfully for St. Joe, Bears were able to recover the bad snap, but that would force a punt. St. Joe would hold Portage Northern deep in their own territory and forced the Huskies to punt, showing a lot of punts here. Christian Myers fields the ball at the 45 and hits the turf, but is hit by a Portage Northern defender. Unnecessary roughness sets the Bears up in field goal range with 6 seconds remaining in the half. The kick by Antonio Burfiend is no good. Portage Northern goes on to win 16-7 to share the Smack West title. Bears finish 5-4 and will await their playoff fate.
On to our last game of the night. Lakeshore hosts Matawan for the last game of the regular season. We start in the second half. Lancers on top 15-7, but the Wildcats are on the prowl. Daniel Parabi hits the edge and goes untouched as he finds the end zone. Lakeshore up 15-13, only a one-possession game. And on the following Lancer drive, Trajan Keem goes up the middle and loses the football. It bounces down the field and looks as if Matawan recovered it, but Lakeshore was able to pull it away in the dog pile. Not a pretty way to move the ball down the field, but hey, it worked. Lancers would face 4th down in the red zone and elected to kick the field goal. Kyle Wojohn's kick is true to give Lakeshore an 18-13 lead. They would go on to win by the same score. The Lancers secured their 31st straight winning season. And In the battle of undefeateds, Cassopolis takes down Centerville 21-0 to win the Southwest 10 Conference.
And Edwardsburg also pitched a shutout tonight. The Eddies dominated once again, no surprise there. This time 56-0 over Sturgis to finish the regular season undefeated for the first time since 2016. Now all of those Michigan schools will find out their postseason fate on Selection Sunday coming up in just a couple days on Sunday. Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of Friday Night Football. Your lottery numbers are up next. Good luck, everyone.